Hi, Sananda.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. How'd you do with all the rain down there? Did you get a lot?
Got very much. I mean, it was light, not like up there. It sounds like you really got deluged.
No, we only got an inch, but the surf was pretty. I'm glad we're not on the coast right now.
Yeah.
The coastal areas got it pretty heavy. A friend in San Diego said it was just pouring down there where she is.
Oh my God.
So, and I see John is here. How you doing, John? How was snowy?
Well, she's the important one. She seems to be fine.
She seems to be in a very sattvika mood there.
Well, yeah, she's very receptive. It's been a quiet day.
And I think I see, is that Dottie or Leto with, is it, okay. Hi, Dottie. Hope your Christmas was good. Hoping you have a wonderful new year. And I'm see who else comes on. I hope, what are you all going to do for New Year's?
Nothing.
You and the cats are going to
Sleep.
go to sleep, right? In honor of the new year. Good. Or if
We
you want
think,
to join our meditation online, you can do that. You can wake up at 11:30 and
Do that. I can handle that.
yeah, right. Put you can put the computer on your bed. You can get up and you can
Exactly.
look at the shrine. Yes, painless way to enter the new year. Okay, everyone's doing okay? How's Kari doing?
She's good. She came down for Christmas and she was wonderful. She fixed my thermostat for me. So
Good daughter. Good daughter. Yeah.
good.
And all the cats are fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well then, we can start. We are in Festival at Surendra's house, which let me find out the date. Wow, must be a big, long festival here. Oh, yes. Okay. Sunday, June 15th, 1884. And here we go. Therefore I say that whatever you may do, you will find better and better things only if you go forward. You may feel a little ecstasy as the result of japa, but don't conclude from this that you have achieved everything in spiritual life. Work is by no means the goal of life. Go forward, and then you will be able to perform unselfish work. But again I say that it is most difficult to perform unselfish work. Therefore, with love and longing in your heart, pray to God, O God, grant me devotion at thy lotus feet and reduce my worldly duties. Please grant me the boon that the few duties I must do may be done in a detached spirit. If you go still farther, you will realize God. You will see him. In time, you will converse with him. Next, the conversation turned to the quarrels among the members of the Brahma Samaj. They had had a misunderstanding about the right to preach in the temple after Keshav's death. Master Pratap, I hear that some members of the Samaj have quarreled with you about the altar, but they are most insignificant persons, mere nobodies. To the devotees, people like Pratap and Amrita are like good conch shells, which give out a loud sound, and the rest, about whom you hear so much, don't give out any sound at all. All laugh. Pratap, speaking of sounds, even such worthless thing as mango stone makes a sound. Master Pratap, one can very well understand the inner feelings of a teacher of your Brahmo Samaj by hearing his preaching. Once I went to a meeting of the Hari Sabha. The teacher of the day was a pundit named Samadhyay. And can you imagine what he said? He said that in the course of his sermon, God is very dry, We must make him sweet and fresh with our love and devotion. I was stunned to hear these words. Then I was reminded of a story. A boy once said, "At my uncle's house, there are many horses. Oh, yes, his whole cowshed is full of them." Now, if it was really a cowshed, then horses would not be kept there. Possibly he had only cows. What did people think on hearing such an incoherent statement? They believed that there were surely no such animals as horses in the shed. Laughter. A devotee. True, sir. There were not only no horses, but possibly there were no cows. Laughter. Master. Just fancy, to describe God, who is the very nature of love and bliss, as dry. It only proves that the man who has never experienced what God is like. To Pratap. Let me tell you something. You are learned and intelligent and a serious-minded soul. Keshav and you were like two brothers, Gaur and Nitai. You have had enough of lectures, arguments, quarrels, discussions, and dissensions. Can such a thing interest you anymore? Now gather your whole mind and direct it to God. Plunge deep into God. Pratap. Yes, sir, you are right. That is surely my only duty now. But I'm only doing all these things only to perpetuate Keshav's name. Master with a smile. No doubt you say that now, that you are doing all this to keep his name alive. But in a few days you won't feel that way. Listen to a story. A man had built a house on a hill. It was only a mud hut, but he had built it with great labor. A few days after, there came a violent storm and the hut began to rock. The man became very anxious to save it and prayed to the God of the winds, "Oh, God of the winds, please don't wreck the house." But the God of the winds paid no heed to his prayer. The house was about to crash. Then he thought of a trick. He remembered that Hanuman was the son of the God of the winds. At once he cried out with great earnestness, "Oh, revered sir, please don't pull down the house. It belongs to Hanuman. I beseech you to protect it." But the house still continued to shake violently. Nobody seemed to listen to his prayer. He repeated many times, "Oh, this house belongs to Hanuman." But the fury of the wind did not abate. Then he remembered that Hanuman was the devoted servant of Rama, whose younger brother was Lakshmana. Desperately, the man prayed aloud, "Oh, this house belongs to Lakshmana." But that also failed to help matters. So the man cried out as a last resort, "This is Rama's house. Don't break it down, O God of the winds. I beseech you most humbly." But this too proved futile, and the house began to crash down. Whereupon the man, who now had to save his own life, rushed out of it with a curse, "Let it go. This is the devil's own house." To Pratap, you don't have to perpetuate Keshav's name. Remember that he achieved all his success through the will of God. Through the divine will, his work was established, and through the divine will, it is disintegrating. What can you do about it? Now is your bounden duty to give your entire mind to God and to plunge deep into the ocean of his love. Saying these words, the Master sang in his sweet voice, "Dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find a gem of love. Go seek, O mind, go seek Vrindavan in your heart, where with his loving devotees Sri Krishna sports eternally. Light up, O mind, light up true wisdom's shining lamp, and let it burn with a steady flame unceasingly within your heart. Who is it that steers your boat across the solid earth? It is your guru," says Kabir. "Meditate on his holy feet." The Master continued, addressing Pratap, "Did you listen to the song? You have had enough of lectures and quarrels. Now dive deep into the ocean of God. There is no fear of death from plunging into this ocean, for this is the ocean of immortality. Don't think that this will make you lose your head. Never for a moment harbor the idea that by thinking too much of God one becomes insane. Once I said to Narendra, Pratap, 'Who's Narendra, sir?' Oh, Master, oh, never mind. There's a young man of that name. I said to Narendra, 'Look here, my boy. God is the ocean of bliss. Don't you want to fly and plunge into this ocean? Suppose there's a cup of syrup and you're a fly. Where would you sit to sip the syrup?' Narendra said, 'I will sit on the edge and I will stick my head out to drink it.' 'Why?' said I. 'Why should you sit on the edge?' He replied, 'If I go far into the syrup, I shall drown and lose my life.' Then I said to him, 'But my child, There is no such fear in the ocean of Satchitananda. It's the ocean of immortality. By plunging into it, a man does not die. He becomes immortal. Man does not lose his consciousness by being mad about God. To the devotees, the feeling of I and mine is ignorance. People say that Rani Rashmani built the Kali temple, but nobody says that it was the work of God. They said it was such and such a person established the Brahmo Samaj, but nobody said that it was founded through the will of God. This feeling, I am the doer, is ignorance. On the contrary, the idea, O God, thou art the doer and I am only an instrument, thou art the operator and I am the machine, is knowledge. After attaining knowledge, a man says, O God, nothing belongs to me, neither this house of worship, nor this Kali temple, nor this Brahmo Samaj. These are all thine. Wife, son, family do not belong to me. They are all thine. To love these objects, regarding them as one's own, is maya. But to love all things is daya, it's compassion. To love only the members of the Brahmo Samaj or one's own family is maya. To love one's own countrymen is maya. But to love people of all countries, to love the members of all religions is daya. Such love comes from the love of God, from daya. Maya entangles a person and turns them away from God. But through daya, one realizes God. Sages like Shukadeva and Narada always cherished daya in their hearts. Pratap. Revered sir, are those who live with you making progress in spiritual life? Master, I tell people that there is nothing wrong in the life of the world, but they must live in the world as a maidservant lives in her master's house. Referring to her master's house, she says, this is our house, but her real home is perhaps in a faraway village. Pointing out her master's house to others, she says, no doubt, this is our house. But in her heart, she knows very well it doesn't belong to her, and that her own house is in a faraway village. She brings up her master's son and says, my Hari has grown up very naughty, or my Hari doesn't like sweets. Though she repeats my Hari with her lips, she knows in her heart that Hari doesn't belong to her, that he is her master's son. Thus I say to those who visit me, why don't you live in the world? There's no harm in that. But always keep your mind on God. Know for certain that house, family, and property are yours. They are God's. Are not yours. They are God's. Your real home is in God. Also, I ask them to pray always with a longing heart for love for God's lotus feet. Again, the conversation turned to the English people. A devotee said, Sir, I understand that nowadays the pundits of England do not believe in the existence of God. Pratap. However they may talk, I don't believe that any of them is a real atheist. Many of them have had to admit that there is a great power behind the activities of the universe. Master. Well, that's enough. They believe in Shakti, don't they? Then why should they be atheists? Pratap. They also believe in the moral government of the universe. Pratap was now about to take leave of the master. Master to Pratap. What more shall I say to you? My only request is that you do not involve yourself in quarrels and dissensions anymore. Another thing, it is lust and greed that keep people away from God. That is the barrier. Don't you find that everyone has nothing but praise for his own wife? I'll laugh. A wife may be good or bad, but if you ask her husband about her, he will always say, oh, she's very good. At this point, Pratap bade the master goodbye. He did not wait to hear the end of Sri Ramakrishna's words about the renunciation of lust and greed. Those burning words touched the hearts of the devotees and were carried away on the wind through the gently rustling leaves in the garden. A few minutes later, Mani Malak said to Sri Ramakrishna, Sir, it is time for you to leave for Dakshineshwar. Today, Keshav's mother and the other ladies of the family are going to the temple garden to visit you. They will be hurt if they do not find you there. Keshav had passed away only a few months before. Master, to Mani Malak, don't hurry me, please. I didn't sleep well. I can't rush. They're going to Dakshineshwar. What am I to do about it? They will stroll in the garden and enjoy it thoroughly. After resting a little, the master was ready to leave for Dakshineshwar. He was thinking of Surendra's welfare. He visited the different rooms, softly chanting the holy name of God. Suddenly he stood still and said, I didn't eat any luchi at mealtime. Bring me a little now. He ate only a crumb and said, "There's much meaning in my asking for the luchi. If I should remember I hadn't eaten any at Surendra's house, then I should want to come back for it." All laugh. Mani Malak, that would have been nice. Then we too should have come with you. The devotees laughed. And that's the end of that day. Any questions or commentaries on that? Objections? Okay. Then we can move on to Friday, June 20th, 1884. It was dusk. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room, absorbed in contemplation of the Divine Mother. Now and then he was chanting her name. Rakhal, Adhar, M., and several other devotees were with him. After a while, the evening worship began in the temples. Adhar left the room to see the worship. Sri Ramakrishna and M. conversed. "Master, tell me, does Babaram intend to continue his studies?" I said to him, "Continue your studies to set an example to others." After Sita had been set free, Bibhishana refused to become king of Ceylon. Rama said to him, "You should become king to open the eyes of the ignorant. Otherwise they will ask you what you gained as a result of serving me. They will be pleased to see that you acquired a kingdom." I noticed the other day that Babaram, Pavanat, and Harish have a feminine nature. In a vision, I saw Babaram as a goddess with a necklace around her neck and woman companions about her. He'd received something in a dream. His body is pure. Only a very little effort will awaken his spiritual consciousness. You see, I'm having some difficulty about my physical needs. It'd be nice if Babaram lives with me. The nature of these attendants of mine is undergoing a change. Latu is always tense with spiritual emotion. He is about to merge himself in God. Rakhal is getting into such a spiritual mood that he can't do anything even for himself. I have to get water for him. He isn't much of a service to me. Among the youngsters, Babaram and Niranjan are rather exceptional. If other boys come in the future, they will, it seems to me, receive instructions and then go away. But I don't want Babaram to tear himself away from his family. It may make trouble at home. Smiling. When I ask him, "Why don't you come?" he says, "Why don't you make me come?" He looks at Rakhal and weeps. He says, "Rakhal is very happy here." Rakhal now lives here as one of the family. I know he will never again be attached to the world. He says that worldly enjoyments have become tasteless to him. His wife came here on the way to Kanagar. She is 14. He too was asked to go to Kanagar, but he didn't go. He said, "I don't like merriment and gaiety." What do you think of Niranjan? M. He's very handsome. Master, no, I'm not asking about his looks. He's guileless. One can easily realize God if one is free from guile. Spiritual instruction produces quick results in a guileless heart. Such a heart is like well-cultivated land from which all the stones have been removed. No sooner is the seed sown than it germinates. The fruit also appears quickly. Niranjan will never marry. It is lust and greed that causes entanglement. Isn't that so? M. Yes, sir. Master, what will one gain by renouncing betel leaf and tobacco? In other words, small renunciations, like giving up candy for Lent or whatever. The real renunciation is the renunciation of lust and greed. I came to know in an ecstatic mood that though Niranjan had accepted a job in an office, he would not be stained by it. He is earning money for his mother. There is no harm in that. The work you are doing won't injure you either. What you are doing is good. Suppose a clerk is sent to jail. He is shut up there and chained, and at last he's released. Does he cut capers after his release? Of course not. He works again as a clerk. It is not your intention to accumulate money. You only want to support your family. Otherwise, where would they go? There's some question here. It's like, well, what's so wrong about having a job? What's the problem with earning money? Sri Ramakrishna's great concern was that people lose their freedom that way. You become enslaved to whoever your employer is. You're sort of at the whim of your employer's mercy. Also, you're often asked to tell lies. He didn't want anyone to be the slave of anybody else. So Niranjan, because he was using that money not to aggrandize himself, not to make money for himself, he was using that money to support his mother, because in fact he was the only child. So for him, that was a very pure, good thing to do. But for other people, if they were just doing it for the sake of making money, and also because they would have to, as he said at one point, taking who was the poet who came to us, taking the kicks of the British officers who come in there. You do it just because you want the money. It takes away your freedom, and it takes away your ability to be truthful. That was his objection. Okay. M said, I will be relieved if someone takes charge of them. That's the way he was talking about his family, supporting his family. Master, that is true, but now do this as well as that. In other words, lead a spiritual life, but also take care of your family. You have to do both. M, it is luck to be able to renounce everything. Master, that is true, but people act according to their inherent tendencies. You have a few more duties to perform. After these are over, you will have peace. Then you'll be released. A person can't easily get out of the hospital once their name is registered there. They're discharged only when they're completely cured. When your tubes are in you, you can't run out of the hospital. You have to be discharged. The devotees who come here may be divided into two groups. One group says, "Oh God, give me liberation." Another group, belonging to the inner circle, doesn't talk that way. They are satisfied if they can know two things. First, who I am. Second, who they are, and what their relationship to me is. You belong to the second group otherwise. And then, he said, Bhavanat, Baburam, and a few others have a feminine nature. Harish sleeps in woman's cloth. Baburam says that he too likes the womanly attitude. So I'm right. Bhavanat is like that. But Narendra, Rakhal, and Niranjan have a masculine nature. Please tell me one thing. What is the significance of my having hurt my arm? Once my teeth were broken when I was in a state of ecstasy. It's the arm this time. Seeing M silent, the master himself continued the conversation. Master, my arm was broken in order to destroy my ego to its very root. Now I cannot find my ego within myself anymore. When I search for it, I see God alone. One can never attain God without completely getting rid of the ego. You must have noticed the chatak bird has its nest on the ground but soars up very high. Captain said, I haven't acquired any occult powers because I eat fish. I tremble with fear lest I should acquire those powers. If I should have them, then this place would be turned into a hospital or a dispensary. People would flock here and ask me to cure their illness. Is it good to have occult powers? No, sir. You've said to us that a man cannot realize God if he possesses even one of the 8 occult powers. Master, right you are. Only the small-minded seek them. If one asks something of a rich man, one no longer receives any favor from him. The rich man doesn't allow such a person to ride in the same carriage with him. Even if he does, he doesn't allow the man to sit near him. Therefore, love without any selfish motive is the best. God with form and the formless God are both equally true. What do you say? One cannot keep one's mind on a formless God a long time. That is why God assumes form for his devotees. Captain made a nice remark in this connection. He says, when a bird gets tired of soaring very high, it perches on a tree and rests. First is the formless God, and then comes God with form. I shall have to go to your house once. I saw in a vision that the houses of Adhar, Balaram, and Surendra were like so many places for our foregathering. But it makes no difference to me whether they come here or not. That's right. Why shouldn't it be so? One must feel misery if one feels happiness. But you are beyond them both. Master, yes. Further, I think of the magician and his magic. The magician alone is real. His magic is illusory like a dream. I realized this when I heard the Chandi recited. Shumba and Nishimba were scarcely born when I learned they were both dead. Yes, sir. Once I was going to Kalna with Gangadhar in a steamer. The country about A country boat struck our ship and sank with 20 or 25 passengers. They all disappeared in the water, like foam churned up by the steamer. May I ask you one thing? Does a man watching magic really feel compassion when he sees suffering in the performance? Does he feel at that time any sense of responsibility? One thinks of compassion only when one feels responsibility. Isn't that so? Master, a jnani sees everything at once: God, Maya, the universe, and living beings. He sees that Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya, the universe and all living beings, exist and at the same time do not exist. As long as he is conscious of I, he is conscious of others too. Nothing whatsoever exists after he cuts through the whole thing with a sort of jnana. Then even his I becomes as unreal as the magic of a magician. M was reflecting on these words when the master said, "Do you know what it's like? It's as if there was a flower with 25 layers of petals and you cut them all with one stroke." The idea of responsibility. Godness, he said, idea of responsibility. Goodness gracious. Men like Shankaracharya and Shukadeva kept the ego of knowledge. It's not for man to show compassion, but for God. One feels compassion as long as one has the ego of knowledge. And it is God himself who has become the ego of knowledge. You may feel 1,000 times that it's all magic, but you are still under the control of the Divine Mother. You cannot escape her. You are not free. You must do what she makes you do. A man attains Brahmajnana only when it is given to him by the Adyashakti, by the Divine Mother. Then alone does he see the whole thing as magic, otherwise not. As long as the slightest trace of ego remains, one lives within the jurisdiction of the Adyashakti. God sports as an incarnation, God. With the help of his Adyashakti, God sports as an incarnation through his Shakti and incarnates himself as man. Then alone does it become possible for the incarnation to carry on his work. Everything is due to the Shakti of the Divine Mother. He's saying here, you cannot have an incarnation without the power of Shakti. You have to have both. When anyone asked the former manager of the temple garden a great favor, the manager would say, "Come after 2 or 3 days." He must ask the proprietor's permission. God will incarnate himself as Kalki at the end of the Kali Yuga. He will be born as the son of a Brahmin. Suddenly and unexpectedly, a sword and horse will come to him. Adar returned to the master's room after watching the evening worship in the temples. Master to Adar and the others, "Bhuvan was here and brought me 25 Bombay mangoes and some sweets. She said to me, 'Will you eat a mango?' I said, 'My stomach is very heavy today. And to tell you the truth, I'm feeling uncomfortable after eating a few of the sweets.'" Bhuvan Mohini was a nurse who used to visit Sri Ramakrishna now and then. The master could not eat the food offerings of everyone, especially of physicians and nurses. It was because they accepted money from the sick in spite of the sufferings of these people. Master, Keshav Sen's mother, sisters, and other relatives came here, so I had to dance a little. I had to entertain them. What else could I do? They were so grief-stricken. And that is the end of that chapter. Any questions or comments on this very interesting chapter? Any points?
Question. Ramakrishna, I think as Holy Mother noted, has an overweight emphasis on renunciation.
Your voice is a little bit muffled. Has emphasis on what?
Renunciation.
Yes, renunciation.
Too much. And I'm thinking of the examples, not sitting next to a rich man in a carriage, whatever. I wonder how much weight we have to give his extreme statements.
Well, I think when the thing about the rich man is that he said the rich people do not like to be asked favors. If you ask a favor of a rich man, then he's going to feel like basically you burned him, but if you seek him just because you like him, and he said God is the same way. Love God not for what God can give you or what you can get out of God, but love God for love alone. That was the thing. And what he says with renunciation is at least renounce mentally. He's not telling everybody to give up the world. But as he tells M, do this as well as that. Do your duties in the world and be like the woman who works for the rich man. My Hari, this is my house, knowing the whole time that it's not her house, it's not her child. Knowing in our heart of hearts that, yes, this is, in the practical reality, this is where we are, this is the places we're taking care of, this is our family. But we really belong to God and our family belongs to God. Just knowing that identification rather than putting our claws into it and saying, it's mine, behave my way. It's like, no, everything belongs to God.
Well, that's reasonable. That modification or explanation, because so many of his statements sound so extreme that no one could do them.
Yeah, he keeps telling the householders he's trying to prevent them from suffering. It's like, remember what our real home is. Remember who our real family is. Love them, take care of them, do everything for them, but remember in your heart of hearts that God alone is our very own. Because the others will leave us one way or the other. This body will leave us, people will leave their bodies, people go off in their own directions. So remember the truth that it's like only God is our very own. And they're part of God too. We're all part of this infinite divine reality. What do you have to say, Devi Prana? Unmute.
That sounds right.
Okay, Devi Prana said it sounds right. There you go,
Sounds
John.
good.
Got it from the horse's mouth.
I'm glad it's reasonable. As you know from some of my texts, I love to still study and think, but I do have in my mind how silly all of my scientific work is in light of the reality of a universe that will not tolerate it.
Well, scientific work is good. It trains the mind. It's, anything for the service of the world. I mean, we all have our little dharma to do, whatever our dharma might be. And then Sri Ramakrishna said it's very hard to do things unselfishly. Offer it up. Remember, he kept emphasizing that in our reading today. You've got to remember who does it. It's only what God has given us to do. It was through His will that this thing worked. It was through His will. It was through His will that the Brahmo Samaj was formed. It was through His will that Keshav did this. It was through His will that the Brahmo Samaj is disintegrating. So it's like we got to pull out of that identification because it will cause us grief. He's very practical. He's really very, very practical.
When you read through it and understand it, on the first reading, it does not sound that way. It's much like, as I say, the only way we can approximate infinity is by the sum of very little parts. Like Canterbury told Isaac Newton about his differentials. Oh yes, the quantities of ghosts long since departed.
Well, on that note, tomorrow, Swami Chidakananda will give a talk on Christ's influence on Sri Ramakrishna, which is perfect for the season, and it'll be very interesting. He's done a lot of work in the Kolkata area on places that Sri Ramakrishna was influenced on in the Christians' readings, so I think we're all going to enjoy that. And Sunday is New Year's Eve, so everyone come on down here. Come on up here. You can do it. You can drive here. For 11:30 p.m. to midnight, we have our New Year's Eve meditation. You can join us online if you don't want to get in the car. Davy Prana says, no way. So we'll have that. Please all join us. And on Monday, January 1st, is Kalpataru Day, the day that Sri Ramakrishna gave liberation to a number of his disciples. We will have a reading from that right here at 5:30 p.m. From the great master that talks about the great occasion of the Kalpataru. And then this coming Wednesday is Holy Mother's Puja. So all of you, please if you can attend, that's great. It will begin here in the temple at 11 p.m. There'll be a home of fire in the convent, and 11 a.m. So please, please join us. I wish you could join us for the prasad and online, but you can't. So please come for that. It's a great occasion. Okay, and then again next, there will be no reading from Swami Kandananda that day, and Saturday there'll be another reading from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Okay, and conclude with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good rest of the weekend and stay dry. Gemma.